Hey, what up guys, this is Mondo All Day here, back with another video, this time with Green Goblin. So I'm going to be showing you my build guide that I used in order for me to pass Cosmic Trial. Again, this is using roughly around 3,000 Omegas, so if you have more it's going to be a lot easier, but I use roughly around 3,000. So I'll be showing you the artifacts, medallion, which legendary I used, and which uniques, as well as where I placed all all those power points, and where to place all Omegas as well too. Alrighty, so let's get it started. So for the artifacts, I used Mayhem Demon Blood for the extra damage for range attacks and health. Flag of the Scroll for +1 fighting attribute, the brutal damage and the critical damage rating. For the medallion, I used Dr. Doom because it gives you extra spirit, health, the damage rating, but also for the 14% increase in power duration. This is very effective, especially for a signature, because the signature is pretty powerful. Advanced Crimson for the physical damage and extra health, and then Advanced Aim Robot Dispenser for the critical hit, physical damage, and energy damage. He has a bit of a physical and energy, but I use him mostly for physical, but this is a very good one for him. You have something else that's better, then replace it with this one, but this is what I use, and this is what I had at the time. And then for the ring, I used Bloodstone Demon Band because it gives you extra damage to range attacks, +1 strength, brutal damage rating, +1 speed, and well, the summon is not really summoned, but it just included on there. And then for the pet, I used well, any pet, but for the pet it gave me +4% health, +4 in credit drop, +3 in physical damage, +2 in range powers, and then 1 to all attributes. So that'd be good because he's kind of weak, so having the extra +1 in durability, which is good. Now, for the legendary, I used Gunner for the critical hit, so and critical damage rating. So this is very beneficial. This kind of the legendary can use to anyone, but for this one, for this build and with Green Goblin, would be perfect for him. For the Forge, I used typical defense, and I did 200 energy damage rating. Again, he's kind of a physical and energy, so I use a little bit of energy because I already have a lot of physical, so I figured I'd add some little extra damage rating to his damage attacks. And plus it gives you 200 extra damage to range powers. For his costume, I used critical damage rating for grade 1 through 4, and for the core, I used one that gave me 1 extra durability because again he's kind of weak, but also for strength because I used a lot of his attacks are physical. But more importantly, I used the core that offered me 25% increase in health and 100 in spirit when you use a medkit. Very useful, especially for Cosmic Trial. And then for Insignia, I use Insignia of Wonder Man because it gives you brutal damage rating, extra damage to range, and also too, you read it here, when using movement power, you and your allies gain physical and energy damage rating, 257 energy and physical damage rating, and then 5% movement speed and extra health regeneration per second for 15 seconds. So, and his movement power is pretty powerful, pretty useful, but that's what I used. Now I'll be showing you where I placed all of his power points. 3 for Razor Bats, 3 for Impaling Boost. Alright, and then I put 1 for Glide, and I'll explain why at the very end, but why I use Glide. Maxed out Hallucinant Pumpkin, and I'll explain why in a bit, but maxed out Hallucinant Pumpkin, maxed out Remote Control Dive, maxed out Strength over Sanity for the passive, which gives you extra damage rating, critical hit, and brutal strike rating, maxed out Sonic Toads, Rocket Barrage, maxed out the Green Goblin formula, obviously his signature, and then the big one I maxed it out, and I use Lethal Toxicity, can't even pronounce it correctly, but what that does is it gives you extra damage to Hallucinate Pumpkin. I use this because it does a lot of area damage. And then that's really it. Again, it's very simple build, and I'll show you my rotation. And again, super simple. Now for the Omegas, I use around 3,000, so for Molecular, I'll show you. As you can see here, I didn't use all of them, but for Neural Enhancement, I got nothing. Arcane Attunement, nothing. Interstellar Exploration, 1 for Earth for the extra base damage. 3 here for Hala for extra damage or physical attack powers. For special weapons, since he's all ranged, I put 1 for Vanquish Sniper Rifle because it does extra ranged attacks, deal extra damage the further you are. Tactical Pistol, put 1 for extra damage when you're closer. Assault Rifle, increase of base damage to range attacks, and then 1 for Silencer for extra base damage to enemies not targeting you. 1 for Focus Plasma Cannon for extra damage for range powers, and then 1 for Fury's Needle Gun because it does attack speed, increases your attack speed, but also reduces the spirit cost of range attack, which are all of them. And then 2 for Night Pistol because it gives you extra damage to base damage to range attacks. Mutation, I put 3 Warpath because it gives you that fighting. None for that's nanotechnology. I put 3 for Spin Tech because it gives you damage to bosses. And then Human Augmentation, 1 for Deathlock for extra physical damage, and then 4 for Reverb Program because it gives you extra base damage to base physical damage. And then Psychonics, I put 6 for Melt Phase for the brutal damage rating. And then Shadow King because it gives you extra critical hit and brutal strike. 1 here to unlock it, and then Focus Strength of Groom because it gives you +7 attribute strength, and then unfortunately gives you minus 70 spirit. So it's unfortunate, but that +7 strength would be very beneficial. Molecular adjustment none, and that's really it in terms of the Omegas. Now for Hero Synergy, I placed Cable for the critical chance, Cyclops for the energy and XP boost, Dr. Doom for the signature power damage, again with his medallion that gives you 14% increased duration, combined with this one which gives you extra damage to signature. It's a win-win. Green Goblin because it gives you area damage and extra damage while moving for movement powers. Human Torch because it gives you the area damage increase. Iron Man for the range power increase damage, and then also for the energy. Moon Knight for the physical power critical chance. And then 1 for Thor for the physical damage and for the energy. War Machine for the extra spirit, but more importantly for the fighting attribute. And last but not least, Wolverine for the brutal strike chance. And that's really it in terms of where I spend my Omegas, power points, and Hero Synergy. Now I'll be showing you my rotation. Oh, for uniques, they're all his uniques, so nothing special. So the rotation is pretty simple. I use Razor Bats a lot whenever I'm low in spirit, but my rotation, it goes two ways. One, I can just go Sonic Toads, Illusion Pumpkin, Rocket Barrage, Remote Control Dive, and then the big one, and sometimes Signature after, depending on what I'm doing. Or what I do is I use Razor Bats to set up for Rocket Barrage. I'm saying this because Rocket Barrage, you have to be directly contacting, you have to be in sight of the enemy you're going to try to attack. This only does add damage to one enemy, so you have to be kind of like aligned. If you're not, you're going to miss that attack, and you're just going to waste that, potential damage. And so the way I set it up is pretty simple. I use Razor Bats and then do Rocket. So I'll show you right now. So let's say I'm walking around. See that? Again, Razor Bats, set it up, and then Rocket Barrage. That's how you use it. Another method too, see, this is kind of weak. What I suggest doing is when you're doing attacks and you're doing the rotation of Sonic Toads, Lucigen, Rocket, Remote, the big one. My advice is just turn around.
You don't deserve slow and painful.
See that? So what you want to do is to attack him. Maybe do 2 of his powers, Sonic Toad's Illusion, and then do Impaling Boost, move across, and then do Razor Bats, and then Rocket Barrage, and then so forth and so forth. Again, show you. And that's really it. That's really it. Really, that's all I did when doing Cosmic Trial, and I was able to pass it. And again, this is using around 3,000 Omegas, so if you have more, it'll be much easier. But you can definitely, pass Cosmic Trial with this build. Also, too, for the team up, I use Deadpool because of his signature, which is server lag. What it does is it freezes the enemies, so it gives you extra time to do damage without receiving any damage. And that's really it. Now, as the way I do is like this. So if I'm playing and then there's lots of enemies around me, I use Impaling Boost because it's short and it does a lot of damage. But if I have to travel far, what I do use is Glide because it does not cost any spirit, but it does a lot of damage, and it's pretty useful. No cost add up to spirit. So what I'm doing whenever I'm doing Midtown Manhattan or Hightown, Industrial City, and I have to travel far, I use Glide. To travel far, it does extra damage and sometimes even kills enemies, and with that, it gives you extra boost or XP. But whenever there's a lot of enemies or there's a short distance, I use Impaling Boost. That's really it. That's all. This is my build that I use for Cosmic Trial. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comment section. Any questions, let me know. And that's that. All right, talk to you later.